So today we're going to be talking about the MLS, and we've invited Melody, who is an educator with the MLS, to be here with us this morning. Welcome, Melody. And she's going to talk about the two things that we had on our list. So we wanted her to cover statistics, because I think it's helpful for us to understand what statistics we can provide through the MLS to help us with our listing appointments and helping getting price reductions and market education and stuff like that. And then also, if she has time, maybe she can touch on helps, things that can help make our job easier. So Melody, with that, I'm just going to turn the time over to you and mute myself, and I'll try to monitor the chat as well and help you with any questions or comments. We want this to be an open forum, so we want you to ask questions and get the most out of this we can, because we're grateful to have her spending time here with us today.
All right, thank you so much, Ken. I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share here so that you guys can see the MLS and everything live as I go through it. Now you should be able to see utahrealestate.com across your screen. Ken, can you just confirm for me that that's visible?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And I'm just going to move my little menu over and we're good to go. So first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us early on a Tuesday morning after a long 3-day weekend. I hope everybody had a great weekend and feels rejuvenated and ready to hit the ground running. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Just a reminder that we have the whole training team here to support you guys, not just myself, but Molly Nielsen's our director of training, and also Jason Moquin, who specializes in that one-on-one training if you ever feel like you need a little extra help. Jason's also on our support team, which is always a resource for you guys to use anytime you have questions about the statistics that we go over or any of the other just really insightful helps that we'll talk about today. Then all you need to do is use that help icon in the upper right hand corner of the MLS and use the contact us button to find their contact info. And they are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5:30, with the exception of holidays like yesterday. So that means after we are done here today, you'll have till 5:30 p.m. local time to bug them. And they're literally just sitting around waiting for you guys to reach out to them and ask them questions. So please use that resource, as it's no extra charge to you. We are going to go over statistics today. So I'm going to jump live into the MLS. You guys should be able to see my MLS dashboard now. And this is actually going to be quite a quick intro to statistics, as we don't have a full hour to go over the CE accredited course like we normally would, but I want to give you guys the really important, insightful tools. So of course, as you go into your statistics tab, it's just there at the top right in your MLS. And we're going to actually jump into that first option, the market analysis report. And that's going to be an overall view for the entire state of Utah. As we jump in, it's going to open a new tab. So if we're navigating through something else in the MLS, we're not going to lose our progress. But it looks a little bit like this is all there is to see on the market analysis page whenever you load it up. It's this big purple banner with links to showing time statistics, but actually the meat and potatoes of this report, you have to actually start scrolling down to see. So just a quick little note there. But these statistics are not only really, really helpful across the entire state, but they're actually developed so that you can use them in situations where you're working with a client who may be colorblind, where you're trying to focus on 1 year at a time or one specific statistic bar at a time. And we want to make sure that everything that you have access to here is really clear to you. So right here at this first chart, the number of listings entered, this is going to be all of the listings that we've had from January 2018 all the way to the current month. And of course, we don't have a whole lot of stuff finished out for May just yet, because today is the last day of May. But we are looking at those statistics ongoing as we go through. First of all, I want to let you guys know that you can use the key at the bottom of any of these graphs to remove any of the years that you're not interested in seeing. So for example, I'm just showing 2021 and the year so far in 2022. And note that they do have different colors. And as you hover over the different data points, it will give you a breakdown of the specific numbers. So you're not just spitballing and guessing, oh, that one's kind of close to 3,500. I'll just say that it's 3,400 or something along those lines. You can actually hover over all of the data points and see things as you go through. And then as you compare all of the different lines, of course, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to any trends, anything that is similar as we go year to year and month to month in those yearly comparisons through all of these statistics. That's really important as well. Just a reminder, we are from the statistics dropdown on the market analysis page. If anybody's having trouble joining us and following along, it's that first option under the statistics dropdown. And as we go through, one more thing that you can see is if you look at the chart context menu, I call it the pancake button in the top right corner over here of every chart. You can actually click on this and print the chart or download it as a PDF for PNG or JPEG. If you download it as a PDF, it will still be interactive so long as you're not printing it off and putting it on paper, which will allow for your clients to be able to see the information that you are sharing with them when you go over all of the statistics going on in our market right now. Then, of course, not only are all of the lines color coded, but like I said, there's that colorblind option where we actually have different data points shapes for each of these lines. For example, 2018 is not just in the teal green color, it's also got actual circle dots, whereas 2019 has diamonds, 2020 has squares, 2021 has upward pointing triangles, and 2022 has downward pointing triangles. And then if the charts just aren't really enough data for your clients to consume all at once, then you can actually scroll down and the exact same data points that we're looking at on that chart are listed here on this table, where you can download a CSV or a PDF file of this information as well. Now, this is exactly the same data we were looking at above, but it's in table format instead of chart. So you can actually compare January 2018 to 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And this one even has the numbers for May so far, which is really, really useful because today is May 31st, and you may want to use this month's statistics in comparisons with your clients you talked to today. Anytime that you're looking at anything mid-month, that red number is going to indicate that this is the number up to midnight last night, essentially, for the month so far. And then it will not appear on the chart, of course, until the month is finished out. So keep that in mind. Number of listings entered is going to be really useful for you to show how much influx we are getting in the market. If you're trying to talk to your clients about more specific things like absorption rates, this is a good tool to jump into and kind of warm them up to that particular information. As we scroll down, though, we're going to go ahead and go to the active listings. Of course, we want to make sure that we're looking at how many active listings we have entered per day. And this is going to actually show us a day-to-day breakdown from January 1st this year in comparison to last year. This is actually a really useful tool to see as you see that we are actually taking off from the number of listings entered so far in 2022 as compared to a year ago today. All of these statistics, like I said, you can see the different data points hover over the exact numbers. And it looks like right now we're actually sitting at just about double what we were looking at entering per day last year as far as active listings a day go. As we scroll down, same options are available. You can export this or print the chart directly. And then, of course, the table is going to give you those same active listings data points, but this time this is going to break it down into different counties. So you guys are probably mostly working out of the Davis County area there. So you'd pay attention to that Davis County line. And as you go through, you can actually see what the comparison is 2021 to 2022 each day for the past week. So that's going to show you our numbers as of about a week ago are doing much, much better than they were in 2021 as far as active listings entered. And the inventory is very, very healthy right now if you're comparing this year to last year. As we go through, and you go down to the average number of active residential listings per day by month, this is actually going to show you a very similar chart to the one above, but it's going to also show you how many active listings a day, each day of each month are going to average out to. And that's kind of hard to follow along. I understand I can almost talk in circles with some of this information, but essentially you're looking at averages for January per day. In 2022, earlier this month, we were seeing really low, earlier this year in January, we were seeing really low numbers compared to previous years, including in 2021. But as you see, the climb is happening pretty steeply so far already for the summer months to come. And if this pattern continues, if this trend continues, then we'll be seeing listings return to much more closer to normal as what they were before a certain worldwide event back in 2020. So you can see all of these. Once again, you can color code these to kind of give yourself just a minimal comparison for specific information as you need. And then you can always bring those back just by using the key to navigate. As we scroll down, again, we've got another table that's showing us all of these numbers to date so far as they average out per month across the last 5 years. And that's really useful to look at as well if the charts are a little bit more confusing for your clients. Under contract listings, if you notice that the active listings per day are quite low compared to previous years, there's not a ton of problem with the absorption so far. Now, we are definitely in a seller's market, but the active listings averaging out per day each month is actually still quite low. And one of the reasons that I want to point that out is that the under contract listings are actually much higher. And I'll scroll down a bit further. We're going to go to the average number of under contract listings per day by month. It's the second under contracts listing graph. And you'll notice that in 2020, around April, we actually had a spike in under contract listings. And in 2021, those numbers stayed quite high as well as compared to previous years, 2018 and 2019. And those under contract listings, again, are still quite high for so far in 2022, but we're starting to get to more almost expected numbers from previous years over the past 5 years. And we're not getting those outliers anymore like you see on the yellow line here, but we're coming closer to the patterns from before everything went kind of nuts with the market in 2020. So if you'll just pay attention to those lines, you'll kind of see how everything's kind of averaging out. But the average number of under contract residential listings had just absolutely skyrocketed in the late spring of 2020. And it's just now starting to come down to more expectable numbers almost. And that is a pattern that we want to see hopefully continue so that under contract listings are under contract for forever and we actually get to close those, right? But we want to make sure that that market is giving us healthy numbers. So that's a really good thing to see. As we scroll down, you'll also see off-market listings. This was added specifically for another chart that's at the very end of this report, but you'll get to see how many are actually taken off the market each day over the past, so far the entire start of the year as compared to a year ago. And 2022, we have a lot less listings going into the off-market status than we did in 2021 around the same times. And now it's starting to even out again. But once again, we're getting into those summer months where people want their listings to be on the market as soon as possible, not just listed and immediately put off market. As we scroll down, you can again see the county numbers here. And then you see the average off-market residential listings per day by month again. But we're going to go ahead and scroll down to the sold listings, as you're going to be able to see month over month for the past 5 years that the sold listings are actually on trend right now to match up with 2018 pretty well. So we're looking at those same numbers that we were looking at back in 2018, almost identical. If I remove the other years so far, and I were to ask a third grader to draw the same line twice, this is roughly what we'd get, is what I like to compare it to, is that these numbers are actually pretty close in shape so far along the graph for these sold listings. And if we look at the 2019 statistics, they're a little bit more averaging out with the 2022 listings across 2018 to 2019. And then whenever we see 2020, that's where we get some more outliers again, right there in April, all the way to the end of the year. And then 2021, the numbers kind of normal out again. So keep that in mind. Our sold listings are still on track for doing very, very well. And then the very last graph that I want to talk about was actually just added at the beginning of this year. And this is the back to market listings. This is showing us in a comparison month by month to last year, how many listings are taken out of an available status like active, backup, or under contract, and then put back into an available status after being taken out of one. So that way they didn't go into any permanent statuses, they're back on the market. How much can we expect that to continue to happen? And this is something that we're tracking and trying to see if there are any reasonable trends to consider with these numbers. So that's actually a newer chart I want to make sure everyone's aware of before we move on to the next tool. But that's right at the bottom of your market analysis page. And this is once again across the entire state of Utah. So you can look at this and have a pretty good idea of how things are going statewide. Now, in order to get into more specific statistics for your specific area, we're going to have to go into a different report because this one does not get more detailed other than those county numbers in those two tables we saw. So I'm going to close out of market analysis. And Ken, do we have any questions so far? A nod yes or no will do if you don't want to unmute.
I don't see anything in the chat, so it's been pretty quiet. Let's just check in with everybody. Anybody have a question so far? Okay, guess not. You're doing a great job, apparently.
I know I talk pretty fast, so if anybody needs me to repeat myself, feel free. And I know that we're recording this as well. So Ken, I'm sure you'll share with everybody where they can find that after the lesson. So we're going to jump back into that statistics tab, and you guys aren't going to be able to see a couple of these options as they're broker only, but we're going to go to the actual home sales graph. And this is going to be a really important one for you guys to see where things are trending as far as what inventory rates we're going at, and also what the pricing expectations are becoming month to month over time. So when we go into the home sales graph, this is actually going to start with a search. Like most things that you do in the MLS are going to actually start with. And the default is to go back to 2017, but you can go back as far as 1996 when the MLS was founded to see these statistics. But we're going to stick with the default for now. Then the chart data that it's going to show us is the sold price, the total number of homes sold, and the total number of homes listed. And then it's going to divide everything up by quarter. I like to use the median here for the statistical type, whereas the median is essentially if you order everything from one end of the spectrum to another in value, the median is where if you were to fold those in half, that middle line would fall. It's a very good representation of what the norm is without considering any outliers affecting it too broadly like an average might. So there's no right or wrong way to do this, but I prefer median specifically for my best practices so that those jewel of the neighborhoods versus not worth the land it's standing on prices don't really affect things as those outliers might in most areas. And really quick before I get into the actual results here, I'm going to make sure that we're looking at Davis County specifically. You can always specify what location you would like to look at, and that includes by using the view map tool you can draw specific areas that you want to look at the statistics for as well. So, for example, I live in an area near the point of the mountain in the Utah County, Salt Lake County divider. And a lot of the real estate agents around here really like to know what the statistics are specifically for that neighborhood, but it's not geographically on a map listed as point of the mountain. It's just kind of something that everyone around here knows about. So if there's a location in Davis County that's similar to that for you guys, and you want to see statistics for that specific neighborhood or area or suburb, if it's not on a map as a specific city or county or zip code, then you can always draw custom shapes on a map whenever you're viewing your statistic searches. So just keep that in mind. But looking at Davis County, we're going to keep all of the rest of the results to a default. And we're going to look at this map, this graph here. And it's going to show us a line graph of home sales per quarter. Now, first, I'm going to go ahead and show you that the total number of homes sold and total number of homes listed, if you remove that median sold price from the key again, you can look and see over time how those are overlapping closer and closer quarter by quarter. That means that the total number of homes being listed is not really exceeding the total number of homes sold as much as it was 5 years ago. So these increments are getting in between the green line and the black line even smaller and smaller as you go through in time. And if you were to look at this further back, let's say back to the year 2000, you'll see this trend kind of take hold of these lines and really, really show you how they were so far separated, say in 2008 and 2007. At the end of 2007, we've got these huge gaps between homes listed and homes sold. But now as we get closer to the current date, we've got very close numbers here where that gap is just not trending the same way that it had been. So as that goes and those get tighter, that means that our inventory is selling a lot more quickly than what we're putting in on a typical day-to-day basis. If that green line gets below the black line, that means that we're selling more than we have, essentially.
Yeah, and the importance of the 2007, 2008 period was during the meltdown,
Mhm.
the great meltdown, when 1 in every 10 houses in Utah was in foreclosure. So we had a lot more inventory than we did sales. So
Yeah, so that's why you see that big gap. That's a great outlier to look at and know that information historically. Thank you, Ken, so much for sharing. But as you see, as those numbers get closer, that means that we're selling a lot more of the inventory that we have. And that's a really good way, without having to run an absorption report, to gauge kind of where the market's at. And these are specifically, once again, just numbers specifically for Davis County. We're not looking across the whole state anymore. We're looking in you guys' backyards. So I'm going back to the 2017, the default, so that we can compare this information. So back in the first quarter of 2017, we were getting, let's say second quarter, because you guys know that we sell a lot harder in the second and third quarter than we do in the first and fourth, as we do have inclement weather during those seasons. But we're seeing 2,033 homes listed in the second quarter there, and only 1,487 sold. So that's almost double what sold as an inventory that was entered in the market that quarter. And then as you see in the third quarter, it gets a little bit closer, but then in the winter quarters, in the first quarter and fourth quarter of every year, we get those lower numbers. And this is what we call a trend, a pattern that you can follow and start making estimations on what's going to happen with the quarters to come if the trend continues. So as we start getting closer to overlapping, we can see that in the first quarter, we had really low sales again, but we had quite a high number of listings entered in the first quarter of the year still. And we may see even more with the summer months being what they are to go up, as well as that black line we can expect to go up, as sales do typically increase during these warmer weather months and the warmer weather quarters. As we look at this, I also want to look at that median sold price really quickly. So this is where a lot of our clients are going to want to know a lot of information about what to expect with pricing and whatnot. And as you see, all the way back to 2017, there are no greater jumps throughout this line, no really gigantic leaps in pricing, as there had been at the first to second quarter of 2021. So in 2021, in the first quarter, the median, the expected price range for a typical home, basically, which means that half or up to half of the houses that were sold in Davis County in the first quarter of 2021 were up to $400,000 in sold price. Now, in the second quarter, that jumps by 50,000, which is a huge leap compared to any of the other years. We see a $10,000 leap here. There's 5,000 here, 15,000 here, a couple of big ones from this 287 to the 306. But that $50,000 leap is quite high and not what we would expect to see based on previous years. And it keeps climbing. In the third quarter of 2021, we got up to 469, a pretty reasonable jump to 476 from there for the fourth quarter. But now again, in the first quarter of 2022, that's jumped up to 510, which means that we have about $34,000 in increase on that median home price sold in Davis County just in one quarter. And that $34,000 increase is pretty significant whenever you compare it to the trends of previous quarter to quarter numbers. Now, keeping that in mind, this home sales graph report is going to show us exactly what the median sold price is. And I was talking earlier about outliers, about averages, taking into consideration the jewels of the neighborhood and those homes that are barely worth the land that they are built on. So let's look at the averages of this report to really see the difference. So we're at 510 right now for the first quarter, is that most recent number we have for the median. Whereas if you look at the average price, a lot of our higher end homes are selling in Davis County, and that's brought the sold price up to an average of 546. So the difference between that median and the average, once again, is those outliers will affect these pretty greatly if you're looking at averages. Whereas if you're looking at medians, they don't get affected so much by those rare scenarios. whether they be on the low end or the high end of the spectrum. But this is the home sales per quarter graph, and it's only got those 3 points of information. But once again, you can hover over it. You can look at the different colorblind options for the different data points as you need. And of course, anytime that you need to export a graph from the MLS to share with your clients, you can either print it as a PDF, email a PDF of it directly to your client, which is useful if you have your client's contact information in your address book on the MLS, or you can export the report to show in a different set of information that you're giving to your client. Maybe it's something that you want to include in your CMA packet or something along those lines. These are really useful reports to rely on when you're doing those pricings and giving you the backup that you need for the pricing that you are estimating for their properties. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to go back up to the statistics dropdown. And we're going to look at the sales per month report as our final big dive in for statistics here. And once again, I'm going to leave it with the default options. We're looking at going back to May 2017. We're looking at the median statistic type, and I'm going to be looking at a graph here instead of a table. And as we go in, I'm actually going to, I want to look at a table instead of a graph, not a graph instead of a table. I'm going to go in and double check that my location is still Davis County, and then we're going to go ahead and view the results without changing anything else. We're looking at a table of information back to 2017. And here's where you can see actual sales per month and the medians of the different information available for that month's history. So we start at the least recent, which is May 2017, and we're looking at a comparison of median sold price to original list price here of about 100%, which is a really good place for sellers to be at. 99, 100% was always the norm. As we scroll down to current months, though, down at the bottom of the report, let's look back from July 2021 to May 2022, and you're seeing numbers that are keeping above that 100% line. So we've got a couple in September, October that were just at 100%, December, January again, but we're at 103% list price for what we're actually selling at. You can see the full volume of the sales, the number of homes sold in the month for Davis County. And then of course you can see what the median square footage is for these homes, what the price per square foot for the median is there. And then what the typical bedrooms, bathrooms count, and the median days on market are as well. And this is going to be very, very useful for you to look at as far as statistics for Davis County and how to price homes as well. Because you can see that most of the time people are at least getting what they're asking for, if not more, on those list prices. And you can kind of follow along. If a 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom bathroom house is the typical that's selling, then that median original list price and median sold price are probably really good indicators of what you could sell for today for the same type of house. And that's a really good starting point to jump off for your CMAs as well.
Melody, I really like this report. This is my favorite report of all the reports, because for me, it has everything on there that typically a client's going to ask you. Mm-hmm. How long are houses staying on the market? How much are they selling, per square foot? How much can I expect my house to sell for compared to what we list it for? And all of that is on this one report. So I use this report heavily. I really rely upon this one because I believe that it answers, 3 of the most important questions a seller is going to ask you. How long can I expect my house to be on the market? How much per square foot is it going to sell for? And can I expect to get more than the list price? And absolutely, historically, you can answer all those questions.
That's exactly why I wanted to make sure I included this one in our short time together today. But yeah, that's the sales per month report. And you can get down to as specific as the city that you're working in, the neighborhood you're working in. Once again, looking at those search options, you can draw custom areas on the map even for what you consider the market you're working in to be. If your client has a property located in an area that's maybe a little bit harder to buy property in, it doesn't go on the market very often, you just want to look at statistics for that area, you can get as specific as you need to. And that sales per month report is, like Ken said, going to give you those 3 magic answers because these things that you would typically not know off the top of your head, the MLS can run for you in a matter of seconds, depending on your internet connection. And if you do limit it to just Davis County or just a specific area, those results come through even faster. So
I like it also because it provides a check and balance on your CMA. Mm-hmm. When you do your CMA, it comes up with the price per square foot that you're representing for that house. And if you're not in line with what this report says, if this report says $231 a square foot on as a median, and your CMA says $260 a square foot, you're probably high, for the area. So it also provides a check and balance.
Absolutely. And just a reminder, anytime that you do export any of these reports, you will see that who it was prepared by, the agent who prepared it, will always come up in that PDF or documentation. And then it will also let them know just little details about the report as well. But like I said, you can go back all the way to 1996 to look at the very specifics of these different sales month to month. But what you're really going to want to see is how things are trending and kind of compare those numbers. Either on paper or in your head, maybe make a visual or use the line graph here to visually see what's going on. And I'm just switching over to the graph here. It'll take a moment. And that's a lot of information. But if you're looking at essentially the sold count versus volume, a very easy comparison to look at there. The sell to list price percentage, we're looking at the 103% for that last month already. This is all really useful information to work with your client. So make sure that you know that you can export this information and it will attribute it to your contact information and not ask them to reach out to the MLS for questions or anything like that that might confuse them. So keep that in mind. Ken, do we have just a little bit of time to go over one more quick tool?
Yeah, we've got at least 10 minutes.
Okay. I do want to just call everyone's attention to your MLS dashboard. Statistics wise, there are 3 tools that I really want to show you guys that are going to be useful. One is going to be these widgets over here. Your market statistics widget is this little box here that you can move around on the right-hand side of your dashboard. And you can make sure that you're actually looking at statistics relevant to you by choosing a county or a zip code. And then looking at your entire market, just your office or just your listings to see what these actual stats are for you specifically. And we're looking at just the previous month. That's what it'll default to, but you can look at any custom date range that you like. And that works for multiple zip codes. You can look at different property classes. It's very, very useful for however and wherever you are working. But make sure that you've got it set up so that you can see these at a glance whenever you get into the MLS to do something else, because that average days on market and the list price versus sold price and the number of sales over the last month, that's really going to influence how you know the market is working and how you are prepared to do your CMAs. If the number of sales is increasing by leaps and bounds day to day, then you want to make sure that you're taking that into consideration, that there are sales just going. If you're looking at the average days on market, and this is not the cumulative days on market, this is just the actual one set of span days on market. This is a great number to just glance at and know for your clients. Hey, it looks like most of the listings in our area are selling in about 11 days. If we're looking at a higher rate than that, then we need to look into our marketing. If we're looking at a lower number than that, then we're doing really well. Average list price versus sold price, again, very useful statistic whenever you're looking at CMA pricing and kind of checking yourself. If you're pricing what you find to be an average home on the market, you want to make sure that you're going in line with what that average list price or sold price is. Then I do want to note that these are refreshed daily. These statistics will update every single 24 hours between midnight and 1 local time. But then this market update widget down here is going to show you specific results for a date. Once again, you can change what report type you're looking at, the entire market or just your office or listings. And you can choose your county or the zip codes that you like as well to be very specific in what you're looking at. And this is not just going to show you that these are the new listings in active, backup, under contract status today. But if you click on the hyperlinks here, it will actually take you to what those new listings are so you can see them for yourself. The price changes. You can see which 3 properties here dropped in price and that 0 so far today have raised in price. And then the in-person and virtual open houses, you always want to keep an eye on what those open houses are in your area so that you can bring your clients to the best of the best. All of that is going to actually refresh every 15 minutes. So make sure if you're staying on your dashboard for a long period of time while you're looking at that you go ahead and give it a refresh really quickly so that way you can see any updates that were made since you started looking at it. And of course, testing live in the system, it's giving me an error that I couldn't do it with the market update data. So I'm just going to refresh again, pretend that never happened, and we're back in business. So those are the market update and the market statistics tools. The last thing I want to show you guys, especially if you're listing a property, if you're representing a property, is this list track. It's one of our partner products that is fully included with your MLS membership that you don't have to pay extra for. All you do is click on the list track option and agree to open a new window, new browser tab, if you will. And I forgot that I don't have access as that, but I can work as someone I have permission to do so with and show you guys that list track will actually track how your listings are performing online. And this is really, really useful for how you are representing your marketing and your worth as a real estate agent to your clients, especially if I go into my listings dashboard here and I wanted to look at a specific property, I can view the online analytics really, really easily just by clicking on listings, the listing I'm looking at, and that dark blue property analytics. And it's going to show me not just how many different views I have across these different properties, but if I change the way that my similar listings are used, I can use different manual selection of listings criteria or combine auto and manual or any of these things. And as I represent it, I'll actually see orange graphs here in comparison to the purple views that I have, where I can see similar properties and how they're performing. And that's really where the client's going to see how effective your marketing is paying off. So very, very useful. You can look at the last 30 days or the life of the listing or a custom set of days if you like, but you can see where the visitors are from. You can see a heat map of where all of your clicks are coming from, and that actually expands worldwide. If you do have worldwide, you can see it. And if you have any areas where you're seeing just a tiny bit of views, it really stands out when you switch to that satellite view. And that really sends home the impact that you're having across the entire nation, across the world, even for some of your listings. So keep that in mind. But ListTrack is just a very useful tool. Play around with those tools. You have full access to it and see how your listings are performing online. Before I let you guys go, Ken, do we have any questions in the chat?
We did have a couple. We have another one from Jason Carlson that just came in. It says, is there a chart that breaks down price reductions?
So we don't have a statistics tool that breaks down price reduction specifically, but you can see under the, like I said, under that market update tool, day by day, which properties are being dropped in price. So right now I'm looking at the entire state of Utah, and then we're seeing 16 price drops across the state. But once again, if I change to Davis County, we'll see those 4 that we were just looking at a moment ago, and we can keep tabs on those, kind of doing our own statistic searches as you would with those graphs and tables. So once again, just a good widget to have open to kind of track the market statistics on a day-to-day basis for your area. So that's that price drop tool there.
So his follow-up question is, so you can only see today, then whatever happened today in on that particular screen.
Yes, but you can see it day by day, and you can choose any date to compare it to see which ones are happening today versus if we had any drop. For example, on Friday, we had 145 across the state that dropped in price. And then in Davis County specifically, 17 just on Friday. And so those 4 that we see today are just for so far today.
So you might want to keep a little running tally of your own, or go back and look up a week's worth of dates and see if there's a trend as far as price reductions go.
Yes. And then you can always see how steeply those are dropping by clicking on the number as well to see the agent full reports and how much those actually dropped by. So, I didn't mean to open the mortgage calculator. So for this property, for example, it was originally listed at $389,990, and it's dropped about $10,090 in price to its new list price here. And that you can just kind of track and keep your own data. If you're good with Excel sheets, I highly recommend just tracking stuff like that in your Excel sheets as well to see how and what type of properties are changing and becoming more affordable in list price.
Okay, good. Great question, Jason. Any other questions before we leave for the day? It looks like we don't have any other questions. So Melody, thank you so much for spending your hour with us this morning and enlightening us on the statistics in the MLS and those helpful tips on market statistics. We appreciate your time.
Thank you
Hey,
so much.
Melody, does it work the same on the St. George, like the Washington County MLS?
So it does not work necessarily the same way on the Washington County MLS. We run all of our own statistics reports through our MLS since we develop it in-house. They would be using a third-party software that they pay for. I'm not sure which platform they use, but they should have access to similar statistics. I just don't know how to navigate their MLS specifically.
Okay, thank you so much.
No
But
problem.
if you did a search for Washington County, you could run the analytics on what has gone through the MLS in Washington County. So it'd just be specifically what was listed on this service, not necessarily on the Washington County MLS.
Exactly. And for example, we do have Washington County numbers because they do tend to go across MLSs. The more places they can list, the better it is for their properties, as it were. So you can see just in the, oh, I didn't want Wasatch, I wanted Washington. Where'd it go? Just in Washington County here, we already have 2 new listings today, 1 canceled today, and then haven't seen any price drops or anything so far today, but it is still early. So we'll see how the day goes.
Yeah.
Okay,
great.
thank you.
No problem.
I just wanted to ask, this is going to be recorded. Where can I find it again?
So this shows up on Everest's YouTube channel. It'll probably
Oh.
take, I wouldn't look
Oh.
until tomorrow, but on the YouTube channel, all of these trainings are on the YouTube channel.
Okay,
So
thank
usually,
you.
usually takes at least a half a day to a day for us to get them on there.
All right, thank you so much.
You bet.
And then if I could leave you guys, unless there's any more questions, with just a kind of a virtual version of a handout. Anytime that you have questions about the statistics tools and how to navigate them, under the support center, I'm going to the help icon of the MLS and then the support center. There's actually a really useful article called the Guide to the Statistical Reports. And this is going to, if you type in the word guide, it's the very first article that comes up in the search bar. And it will actually break down how to interpret each of the different reports that we have available. And you can actually jump straight to the report using that table of contents that you're interested in knowing more about. Very, very useful for helping navigate.
That's great. Appreciate that. The Help Center does have a lot of valuable information in it. So if you do have a question, start there, go to the help, type in your question, and you will usually find an answer. There's also a lot of helpful videos. I watched a video the other day on a subject, and I didn't need to talk to anybody at the MLS because the video did such a good job of explaining what I had a question about. So that is a great resource. All right, any other questions before we go? Okay, Melody, thank you so much for your time. Thanks everybody for joining. Have a great day. We'll talk to
Thank
you
you.
later.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
you.